Yes, my number 5 is American Hustle. And again, as it gets higher, it's I hate having this one so low because this one would be again in another year. This one would be a lot higher on my list. I absolutely love this film. Also, I loved everything about this movie, from feeling like I was thrust back into the 70s with all the hairstyles and art direction and music, and this is just another great David O. Russell film. It was one of my most highly anticipated films.
Nomination.
What's that?
How that movie did not get nominated for Best Hair and Makeup is beyond.
Oh, I know that's insane.
That makes
especially
no
when
sense.
there are only 3 nominees in that category.
I know. Jeez. Yeah. So number 5. It's a very tough number 5. Believe me, in these top 5, I was, especially these numbers 2 through 5, I was jostling these around a little bit. There's not much that really separates these, and this is just an incredible film.
Yes, it is incredible. We'll talk more about it later for both of us, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure. I did have this feeling I would end up ranking it the lowest of you guys.
I didn't care for it, but no.
What?
No.
You didn't
the
care
one
for it,
David
Jamey?
O. Russell movie. It's one David O. Russell movie that isn't surprising to me. That doesn't do anything to redefine the genre. It's just a typical con movie.
Ugh.
Really? You're joining that camp too?
Joining that camp too.
There's a
camp.
camp.
My heart. That's what I see. There is. I see the post.
There's a camp, Jamey.
Oh, it's just a con
joined
movie. It's just another con movie.
Did you really? I mean, Jamey, did you seriously think it was? I mean, you really think this was just another con movie, though? I mean, don't you think this is so elevated above the typical con movie?
How would it be elevated?
The fact that it's so character-based.
Well, most con movies are character-based.
Yeah, but think of how much we learn about
colorful characters that perform a con.
Yeah, but think about how much we learn about
what the movie flubs is it doesn't say anything about the corruption in which that it portrays. It doesn't say anything about a society that started to accept this notion that it's okay to be corrupt on all levels.
I think it says that. It doesn't have to make that point. I think you got to get that point as you see it. Man.
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
I think it's
Jamey.
I'm not saying
it's not even in your top 10. It's not even.
So it's not even in your top 10?
No, it's not in my top 10. It would probably be in my top 20 if I were to make one.
If you were to make one. Wow, this one I didn't see coming. Especially you guys.
I like
you
the
guys
women
both.
in it. I like Amy Adams and Jennifer Lawrence in it.
Silver Linings Playbook is your number 1 last year.
Yeah. So I fully expected this was going to be one that all 3 of us would have in our top 10 very high. God, because I just had an absolute smile on my face during this whole thing. I mean, I thought everything from just the depth of Christian Bale's performance, how we see much of the marriage between Christian Bale and Jennifer Lawrence, how that is explored. God, yeah, everything about this. Bradley Cooper's performance, how we find out more about his character. I mean, God.
Yeah.
All right. I love Gardy's just little. God, this movie had so much to say about so much. I mean, I've never seen a movie that has embraced or had a vision of the future that seemed so real. I mean, it just seemed so. I mean, there are scenes when Joaquin Phoenix is walking around and you just see other people like talking to their operating systems, and it's like, we're not that far away from this thing, because you walk around today and what are people doing? They're on their phones. Everybody's in their own little world already. And I was like, oh my God, this feels so, of the moment, for something that's going to happen in the future. And it's like, I can totally see this happening. And so that's what I loved about this movie that pushed it to my number 1 is the fine line that has to be drawn, because you see the previews, and I think this is why it's doing such low box office. Is because he's falling in love with his operating system. But my God, if this didn't feel like one of the most honest relationship movies I've ever seen. I mean, I was absolutely blown away. It is beautifully shot, wonderfully written. You're right, Joaquin Phoenix, his most amazing performance I've seen of his. And Scarlett Johansson, so great as the voice of the operating system. And what it says about it God, it just did so much with so little. I mean, it the way that it talked about the nature of artificial intelligence. You know, I'm not going to give away. I wanted to talk about more if Jamey had seen it, but you know, you know what I'm probably talking about, Garney, when you know later in the film what happens. You know, so I absolutely loved how it was able to talk about the future of technology at the same time while remaining so true to just about the nature of relationships and, you know, and God, in that closing scene, that was one of the most beautiful shots I've seen all year long in movies. I mean,
and the music by Arcade Fire.
Oh, yes. I mean, this movie is an absolute delight. I mean, I didn't want to leave the seat after I saw it. I was just so in love with this movie. I was like, this is absolutely the best movie of the year. So I'm shocked and appalled, Garney, because I really did honestly think you and I would have this at the same number one. And especially as we started talking about the Oscar race. All right. So that's my number one. So did you two agree on number one?
Well, I mean, number one is obviously where I have Gravity, and I don't remember Jamey putting it on his list yet.
Is that your number one, too?
No, Gravity is not in my top 10.
Oh! Oh, my God, Jamey. Jamey, what has happened to you this year?
What do you mean?
Wow.
Well, I like Gravity
Jamey,
fine.
Okay, before Garney reveals his number one, Garney's, before we hear your number one.
Just revealed
I do want to hear. Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, my God.
Before Jamey reveals his number one, I'll just say that, I mean, Gravity, because like I was saying earlier, a lot of it is talking about film-going experience. And like you said, seeing that movie in IMAX 3D, if I didn't see Gravity in IMAX 3D, it probably wouldn't be number one. So there's that caveat. It's not that Gravity is number one of the year. It's Gravity IMAX 3D number one movie of the year, because that was the best film-going experience I had. I mean, I felt like I was sitting there watching My 2001, where it's just like now, you know, it's like filmmaking is changing, and there were like 5 edits in that movie. Like I almost feel like the movie shouldn't be nominated for film editing because of so many long takes. But and I have friends that argue that Sandra Bullock's character died, and that the end of the film is her just having to do like what she has to do for her own afterlife. That she has to make that journey, but like scientifically, no, there's no way that she could have survived. And as soon as George Clooney shows up again, that's just her going into the afterlife, and everything that happens at that point is just, you know, her own afterlife journey. Because when she lands, she never sees anybody; it's just her. And I'm like, I don't know if that's not the way that I interpret it. I think that it is a survival film, and that she needed to get there for a little girl, and you know, she gets the George Clooney's the guardian angel that comes and, you know, gets her to be motivated to make it happen. And that's the way most people see it, because that's the way they want to see it. But you can make the argument either way. It serves the cynical, it serves the believers, and and everything that you talked about the just the audio of that Stephen Price score.
God,
is brilliant. I mean, it's like it's like it should be iconic.
Yeah, it really should.
If you could pin it down to, because there's no simplicity to it like Jaws. You know, you can't just do the da 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 because there's so many layers and levels to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such a score that is like of the movie. I mean, it's just, and you heard it in that clip I played. You know, it's like you can hear that score independent of the movie, and you feel the tension. I mean, the music absolutely feeds what you're feeling, and that triumphant music that plays at the very end. I mean, one of the great ending scenes of the year for sure. How brilliantly that's shot.
Yeah. And that thing that you're talking about, when she just, you know, releases into the fetal position, everything, and she just starts rotating, and that's a very 2001 recall.
Yes, it is. Yes. And the scene where she's, you know, when she does communicate with, you know, when she has that scene where you're like, It's one of my favorite quotes too. Like, everyone's going to die, but I'm going to die today. And it's that whole idea of knowing that she's going to die.
All right, well, Jamey,
you have surprised us, Jamey. I must say, because I've been sitting here trying to think, what the hell is your number one?
Okay.
I can't even wager a guess.
This will not change. This is definitely my favorite movie of the year. And
you know this for sure.
Features one of the greatest female performances I've ever seen. My number one is
Blue is the warmest color.
Yeah.
I was going to guess that.
Okay.
Even when it says blew my mind and everything, I'm like, what would blow Jamey's mind more than French lesbians?